Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of AmiBroker trading systems and questions and answers. Thank you very much for joining me. It is really great to have you here. And this question comes from reader Chris. Thank you so much, Chris, for your question. It is about an actual trading system based on a white paper on Meb Faber's research, which is actually really cool. Chris writes, I've been really enjoying your YouTube videos about AmiBroker. They are well done and very helpful. Thank you very much, Chris. I'm new to AmiBroker and could use some help getting up to speed with my AFL as I have no prior programming experience and am teaching myself from scratch. And that's really the best part. I am very similar. I'm nothing special. I'm not a programmer myself. And yet all of this stuff can definitely be figured out with just a tiny little bit of code. And the more you figure out, the better you get, which is really great as well. What we're looking at then is an idea where if the stock is above a 10-month moving average, and then makes a 60 to 65-day high, that would be the buy signal for this particular trading system. Now, the tricky part, as Chris says, is that we have to enter at the end of the month. So only if it closes below that 10-month moving average, and then it's at the end of that month. So we're dealing. We could do this all in the one time frame. However, we can also look at how to do this in different time frames. So in the monthly time frame and the daily time frame, which is what I'm going to show you using this little bit of code here. Now, this one is a tiny bit more complex than the ones that we've looked at in the past, just because I really wanted to use this as an example to delve into the different time frames. So let's get started. First of all, we go to our analysis and formula editor, and this way we can start typing in the code for our AmiBroker trading system. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is we can set our different time frames. So if we're looking at time frame set, it turns blue, which is exactly what we're after. And if we open up the bracket, then it's just asking for our interval. So what interval do we want to start with? Let's start with that monthly moving average. To do that, we say in monthly. As you might expect, we'd have different values for weekly. So we'd have in weekly, in daily, and there are other values there at the AmiBroker website as well. So you've got a whole bunch of options there. Now, what that does is it tells our trading system that we're now using a monthly time frame. So what we've got is, let's set our moving average value. And what I'm doing here is I'm just creating an array. So we can call this anything we like. You could call it, really whatever it is you wanted. It's best to just use a name that will make sense to us in the future. And our moving average value was just 10, so 10 months. Now we've got that, we can set up our moving average, and I'm just going to call that moving average monthly. So again, we're just creating an array, and once we've named it, we can give it any value we like using our AmiBroker formula language. So we've got MA monthly, and to do that, we'll just do our moving average, which is MA. It turns blue, and we open up our bracket and it tells us exactly what it wants. So that's great. Our array would just be the closing price, and our value would be MA value, which is 10. That's the one that we just set up here. So now that we've finished working in our monthly time frame, all we have to do is say time frame restore. Now that turns blue. We just open and close our bracket and close it off with a semicolon. And so now all of this code will be executed in a monthly time frame or once a month. Now, as I said, we can do this for other time frames as well. If we probably don't have to do this because we'd be normally using our trading system in a daily interval. But just for the sake of the example, if we say in daily, we can set up the daily highest high value as well that Chris was talking about. So this time we've got high value, and we'll just make that 65. And we want to set the highest high value of the last 65 days. So what we're doing here, we'll call this highest daily. And again, you could call this anything that you wanted to. What I'm going to do here is just set up the highest high, which is HHV, of the closing price of the last 65 days, which is high value. So that's that one that we set up here, 65 days. close that off with a bracket. And then what I'm doing is that it's closing above the highest high. So if yesterday is the highest high and today closes above that price, then we would actually buy. So that's what I'm doing with the refer function. I'm referring to yesterday's highest high price. We have covered this in another video, so I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. Once we've done that, we do time frame restore. Again, close it off with our brackets and our semicolon. And now we've got all of this code that can be potentially executed in a daily time frame. Now that we've set these things up, we can set up our conditions for buying and selling. So what I'm going to do is set up our moving average buy condition and our moving average sell condition, because remember, it has to be above that 10-month moving average. And you can see here that I've plotted it on the chart. It doesn't look like your typical moving average, and that's because it is only calculating it once a month and then looking back over that month. And so, it's not a smooth moving average, but that's what happens when we're only doing this once a month, which is what our time frame is telling it to do. So, that's just something to be aware of. What I'll do as well is set up our highest high buy condition. So we've got 3 conditions here, and what I want to do, this is very important when we're dealing with different time frames. For our moving average above the 10-month moving average, we want the closing price to be above that moving average that we set up previously, up here. So the closing price of the last 10 months. But to access all this stuff in our monthly area, what we need to do is say time frame expand. Now, if we open up our bracket, as you can see, it turns blue. So we need to actually expand it again in order to access it correctly. So what we're looking for is that moving average monthly, which is what we set up within our monthly time frame. And now we're expanding that monthly time frame into a normal one so that it can access it properly. If we just put a comma there, it's looking at what interval are we translating it from, and that interval is in monthly. That turns bold, so that means AmiBroker recognizes it, and that is exactly what we're after. We'll close that off with a semicolon. Now we can do the same thing for our sell signal. A close less than time frame expand, open the bracket, and it's that moving average monthly that we set up right up here in our monthly time frame, and we're converting it from in monthly, closing it off with a semicolon. Now, can you guess what we might do for our highest high value of the last 65 days? Well, we want a close above time frame expand so that we can access the stuff that we've set up in our daily time frame. And again, if you're already in a daily time frame when you're doing this test, you may not need to go through all this rigmarole here, but it's really just for an example and to sort of improve our coding and go over it a few times. So it's a pretty cool way to do it. The one that we set up was highest daily. That's that array that we set up here, which is the closing price of the last 65 days, the highest closing price. And we're translating it from in daily. Close that off with a semicolon, and happy days. Now that we have those, we can actually set up our buy conditions and our sell conditions. Now you'll notice that when we type them in, they turn bold, so that means AmiBroker recognizes it, just the same as we've got in monthly, and that's turned bold. That's a really good sign, and that's what we're after. So what I want to do personally is MA buy is that closing price above the monthly moving average. So all we have to do is say MA buy. So when that's true, then we'll have a buy signal. Also what I want is and that's, as you can see, that changes the color of it. So that means AmiBroker recognizes it as well. So we want also our high buy, which is the closing price, as we've already been through the last 65 days. So those two conditions will be our buy conditions, and our sell condition. This is where we get just a tiny bit tricky, but it's really simple when you get it. Our moving average wants to be below the 10-month moving average, so we've set that up previously, and that's one of our conditions. However, our other condition is that we want it to be on the last day of the month. Now, look guys, there might be an easier way to do this, and if there is, please leave it in the comments. I would love to hear from you. But the way that I've done it is actually using day. So we're using the day, and that just opens the bracket and closes the bracket. And we want that to be greater than or equal to 28. Now, the reason that I've done that is because February has 28 days, so we don't want to miss any trades in February. But also, some months have 31 days, so we don't want to miss, we don't want to just make it on the 28th day of the month. It might go up to the 31st day of the month. So if we close that off with a semicolon, and we're just going to get rid of any excess signals by using the XREM function. So remove excess signals of the buy price, and it won't happen again until we get a sell condition. Same thing for our sell. Really quickly, I will go over this in another video as well, so I won't spend too much time on it here, but it will get rid of any excess sell conditions until we have another buy condition as well. And there we have it. That is the code using 2 different time frames, and then expanding those time frames, and then also waiting until very close to the last day of the month, if not the actual last day of the month itself. As you can see, this is what it looks like. Our blue line is the monthly moving average, moving up every month, and our green line is the highest high value of the last 65 days. There's our buy signal. It moves up, happy days, and then it moves back down. Now it goes below the moving average here in May, but it doesn't sell until it's close to the end of the month, which is around the 28th. Now again, if you're actually monitoring this full time, this will get you very close, and you can do it by eye once it does get to the actual last day of the month as well. So it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Now let's just quickly see how it actually runs. I've selected the code that we've just done up here, and what we'll do, let's use the All Ordinaries of the top 500 stocks with delisted stocks. Let's do it from 2000 to 2016. Make sure our settings are from daily. Let's have no margin, so just a normal account, 100%. And we'll do a quick back test. And as you can see, it only takes a few seconds to do, which is so cool. We've literally gone over thousands of tickers and thousands of trades. If we check out the report for this, that's not too bad. The annual return is 18% per annum using this particular method just on one back test. This is not a Monte Carlo test, so take it with a grain of salt. We've got a 55% drawdown, and a $50,000 portfolio ends up with about $700,000 over the last 16 years. Now, the great thing about this is that once we've set it up in our trading system in AmiBroker, in the AmiBroker environment, then we can actually optimize a few values, if you really wanted to, in an in-sample period, for example, 2000 to 2012, and then test it from 2012 to 2016 as the out-of-sample period. I actually did that myself, and the out-of-sample results from 2012 to 2016, it came up pretty well. There's the equity curve there, starting with $50,000 in 2012. Using this as out-of-sample results would end up with 128,000 at the end of those 4 years, and our drawdowns are fairly limited, which is, that's a nice thing. During the in-sample results, I think the drawdown still went down to 40%, so that's something to be expected as well. But, this is just a good thing that you can check and do yourself. Obviously, I've optimized it, and there's still a little bit of work to do on this trading system, but it's a nice example of what's possible out there. I'll do a couple of videos down the track on how to actually validate trading systems and what to do from there on in. So guys, I hope this has helped you in some small way. I thought this was really cool. Chris, thank you so much. It was great to chat to you as well, and great to have you at the site. Guys, feel free to swing by there. It's asxmarketwatch.com, or leave a YouTube comment below. Have a great week. Until we meet again, happy trending, and bye for now.